Hi, I'm Maham Khan and my topic of presentation is Genetics as Etiology of Obesity. We all know that balance between caloric intake and energy expenditure determines a person's weight. According to the World Health Organization, obesity is now the most significant contributor to ill health. Obesity is a complex disorder caused by several genetic and non-genetic risk factors. Our genes determine regulation of appetite and satiety, tendency to be sedentary, capacity of using dietary fats as fuel, and storing energy as fats. More than one-third of adults and 17% of youth in the United States are obese. Obesity risks is 2 to 8 times higher for a person with positive family history as opposed to a person with no family history of obesity. If one parent is obese, there is a 50% chance that his or her child will be obese. When both parents are obese, their children have an 80% chance of being obese. Almost 50 years ago, Neil proposed the thrifty gene hypothesis to explain the prevalence of obesity and diabetes. Gene variants have accumulated over time to maintain reproductive function as long as possible and enhance survival during famine. These gene variations have resulted in a disproportionate level of obesity in African American and Hispanic Americans compared with Caucasians. The result is a genetic overreaction to the obesogenic environment. Non-Hispanic blacks have the highest age-adjusted rates of obesity at 48.1%, followed by Hispanics, 42.5%, then non-Hispanic whites at 34.5%, and non-Hispanic Asians making 11.7%. Heritability estimates for obesity are high, typically more than 0.70, comparing well with other complex polygenic diseases such as schizophrenia, 0.81, and autism, 0.90. Twin studies show that between 60 and 90% of the BMI variance within a population is accounted for by genetic effects. Coming to the obesity types on the basis of genetics, we have monogenic obesity, that is rare, severe, and early onset. It is caused by a mutation in the genes coding for protein involved in the leptin-melanocortin pathway. This pathway plays a pivotal role in the hypothalamic control of food intake. We have the syndromic obesity, which is associated with other genetic syndromes, melanocortin 4 receptor mutation related obesity, which is responsible for 2 to 3% of obesity in adults and children, and then the polygenic obesity. That is the most common, making more than 95% of cases of obesity. The susceptibility genes in the presence of obesogenic environment cause this type of obesity. Coming to the monogenic obesity, the most common two types are leptin deficiency and leptin receptor deficiency. Leptin is a satiety hormone made by the adipose cells. It regulates energy balance by regulating hunger. It is opposed by the action of ghrelin. So leptin deficiency is caused by mutation in the LEP gene, and the signal that trigger feeling of satiety do not occur. The leptin receptor deficiency is caused by mutation in the LEPR gene, which prevents the receptor from responding to the leptin and leads to excessive hunger and weight gain. Melanocortin 4 receptor-linked obesity is due to a common variant of the NC4 gene, and it is distributed in 22% of the population. The result is increased appetite and decreased satiety. Then the syndromic obesity. We have the Prader-Willi syndrome and the Bardet-Biedl syndrome. The Prader-Willi syndrome is due to error or defect in the paternal genes on chromosome 15, disruption in the normal functioning of the hypothalamus, and it results in uncontrollable hunger and other characteristics of the syndrome. The Bardet-Biedl syndrome results from mutation in at least 14 different genes, defect in ciliary structure. Obesity is accompanied by mental retardation, reproductive anomalies, and other defects. The polygenic obesity is due to major genes that have a clear influence on the development of the phenotype, but the underlying mutations are extremely infrequent. Different satiety and hunger-promoting hormones play their role in causing this type of obesity. Insulin is considered an important adiposity signal for the brain. In a study of early onset obesity, it was shown that a specific allelic combination of insulin gene induces a higher insulin secretion and a higher risk of developing juvenile obesity. In 2007, researchers using genome-wide association studies identified the first obesity-related gene variants in the so-called fat mass and obesity associated gene on chromosome 16. People who carry one have a 20 to 30% higher risk of obesity than people who do not. A common variation in the FTO gene affects 1 in 6 of the population. The present findings suggest that FTO may facilitate weight gain in humans by shifting the endocrine balance from the satiety hormone leptin toward the hunger-promoting hormone ghrelin. The proposed mechanism of action of the FTO in controlling obesity is, when the FTO is knocked down, there is an increase in energy intake that leads to obesity. Coming to the arguments in favor of genetics as cause of obesity, we can make an argument that animal models and family studies provide evidence that genetics play a crucial role in the development of obesity. 3 adoption studies of BMI in singletons unanimously concluded that BMIs in the range of overweight and obesity are strongly influenced by genetic factors. Overweight and obesity tend to run in families. The strongest risk factor for childhood and adolescent obesity is parental obesity. Because families also share food and physical activity habits, a link exists between genes and the environment. Arguments against genetics as cause of obesity. To date, genome-wide association studies have identified more than 30 candidate genes on 12 chromosomes that are associated with body mass index. The most promising of these candidate genes, FTO, accounts for only a small fraction of the gene-related susceptibility to obesity. Another argument is that findings of the twin study suggest a strong genetic influence on BMI. However, this conclusion is based on the assumption that identical and fraternal twins have the same degree of shared environment, and it is an assumption that may not hold in practice. In my opinion, the involvement of genetic factors in the development of obesity is estimated to be 40 to 70%. Obesity is more phenotypically and genetically heterogeneous and more complex than previously thought. Genetics play an important role in the energetic imbalance leading to fat accumulation. These are the references that I've used for my presentation. Thank you for listening to me and have a nice day.